your what we done started. Look at what we done started. This the people party.
What's up, party people? It's Talib Kweli. This is the People's Party. I'm still on remote location in quarantine. We're still in lockdown. I'm still in the People's Party Trap House. And we still got Jasmin Leigh in the place to be. Give it up for my lovely co-host, Jasmin Leigh. What's up, Jasmin? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Welcome to the People's Party. This guest today, I think, is going to be a treat for people who like real lyricism and dedication to hip-hop music. This is the type of guest that we built this show around. You know what makes me happy about doing People's Party? I get to talk to people and have conversations that I would have in my normal life. Mm-hmm. But I get to have them for the masses. And we get to do deep dives. And shout out to Combat Jack. Shout out to Gil Noble. Shout out to the people we modeled the show after. Because I feel like I want the level of this show to be on the level of work that this next guest does, that he puts into his music. Today we have one of the undisputed best rappers ever, truly your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. He rose to fame as part of Bad Meets Evil with Eminem. His most recent record, Allegory, has a track called I Don't Age, for a very good reason. This man keeps getting better and better and better and studying his craft and mastering his craft. He's one of my favorite people, one of my favorite MCs. Over 20 years, he's a veteran. Man, ladies and gentlemen, we got the fantastic Royce the 5'9" on the People's Party. Let's go.
Hey.
What's up, Royce?
My brother, man. Thank you so much for that.
You're gonna have to add some claps.
For those kind words, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Thank you. I was rambling a little bit, I think, in the intro because I was trying to find the words. And a lot of what you do is indescribable to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? I had an intro on paper or whatever, but I'm really trying to put into words how much I'm inspired by you lyrically and how much I'm inspired by you as an artist. I say lyrically because I put lyrics first. I think you do too, but not just lyrically, your musical choices throughout your career. I appreciate
you, man. Likewise, brother. Likewise, man.
Okay. Well, your dedication to the craft has you in groups like Prime, Slaughterhouse, Bad Meets Evil. The best people working, the best producers, the best MCs, DJ Premier, everybody in Slaughterhouse, Eminem, people, Black Thought. You have multiple songs for Black Thought. The best of the best want to work with you. How does that feel?
It feels fantastic, man. I mean, I'm just a kid from Detroit who used to go to the Ebony Showcase, open mic, you know what I'm saying, every Tuesday. The first time I went to the hip hop shop, I was 18 years old.
Tell them about the hip hop shop in Detroit, because people.
The hip hop shop in Detroit. It was originated by Maurice Malone, who was a clothing designer from Detroit. He opened up this spot called the Hip Hop Shop, where we would go weekly, once a week, and there would be like this big cipher, and everybody from my generation, from Slum Village to Eminem, to everybody from D12, Beretta, just everybody that you know from Detroit, Elzai. And just be open mic. Big Proof was hosting, and it would be just like a big circle, and he would be passing the mic around. I went in there and got chewed up and spit out by those guys. I realized that I wasn't as good as I thought I was. And I started going to this spot called the Ebony Showcase. Mm-hmm. And when I went to the Ebony Showcase, the scene was a little bit different. You know, the people were in front of you. You were on the stage. It was elevated a little bit. You got to choose the beat. You know, you could spit, you know, some written shit, and you wouldn't be in a position to where you can get gonged, because that's what happened to me, by the way. I got gonged.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I developed my confidence there, and if it wasn't for there, I probably wouldn't even be rapping today, because I was thinking about quitting after my experience at the hip hop shop. Yeah. So I mean, so like success becomes more and more subjective, you know, the older you get, you know. So mm-hmm. I always just, man, I used to think to myself, if I could just get into the game and get Redman to respect me, Razzcast to respect me, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, just to say that I'm dope, like, that's success to me. So to work with guys like you, Black Thought, you know what I mean? Like the people who I've worked with, man, it's like a dream come true. So that's like one of the things I can kind of look at, you know, if I have those days where, you know, you have good days, you have bad days. If I have one of those days where it's just like one of my down days, I can always look at that You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about your first appearance on Stretch and Bobbito with Eminem. What was your mood walking in that day?
I didn't have a clear understanding of who Stretch and Bobbito was. I didn't realize how legendary of a situation that Marshall was putting me in. Mm-hmm. I just knew that he got a deal. He had me with him, and he was trying to convince everybody that I was nice too, and I just had to step up to the plate. You know what I'm saying? Like, back then, you could have 3 or 4 raps that you recycling over and over and over again, because it was before the internet. You know what I mean? So it's like,
no one knew.
Now if you spit one thing, it's like you throwing it on the floor. So you can't use it again. So me and Ember had like the same 2-3 raps, maybe 4 raps, and that we would be saying at every radio station, and we were just making our rounds, just going anywhere that we could, just kind of like trying to build a buzz, and we were like a team, you know what I mean? So I remember just going in there and thinking to myself, don't forget raps, don't forget anything,
right? And
just do the best that I could. I didn't realize that it was Stretch and Bobbito until later, you know what I mean? Like I got like more of an understanding of the whole New York scene and how legendary that those guys were, and how how much of an opportunity that was for me.
Word up. You have a song called Feel Nigga that I didn't realize until recently. Because I was listening to it recently, and you and I sampled the same Malcolm X speech, because I have a song called In the Field on my project with Styles P. With Malcolm X house nigga feel nigga verse. So I think you and me are similar in many ways. Another way we're similar is that one of my favorite songs from you is Tabernacle. And I feel like Tabernacle really captures the essence of Royce da 5'9" as an artist. And you are very autobiographical, more so than most artists. Like you actually say, I promise not to lie in not one of these verses. What made you write Tabernacle?
I had just got sober. Tabernacle was the first song that I wrote when I got sober.
Okay.
And that was 8 years ago.
It's a very clear song.
Yeah, man, because it was my first real moment of clarity with rapping, period. You know what I mean? Because prior to that, it was like everything was just alcohol induced. You know what I'm saying? So it was just a whole lot of rapping about how good I could rap, which is cool to a degree, but there's a ceiling there. You know, once we've established that you're good at rapping, now what? What do you have to say? You know, so it wasn't until I got sober that I realized I had something to say. And I realized that I did have a story. And I also realized that every artist should have at least one album that's a self-defining album. You know, that one album that you can listen to and say, okay, we know who you are now. And then you can go wherever you want after that. So when I first got sober, it took me probably like a year to be able to write something. It was a tough time for me. You know what I'm saying? I thought it was over. You know what I'm saying? Like, so a lot of those memories from the song started to hit me. And I just started, when I didn't go searching for it, it started coming to me.
It came looking for you.
Yeah. So, you know, I just started taking it and just writing it down. The song just kind of penned itself. And I always knew that I wanted to tell that story. And I actually tried to tell that story a couple times while I was drunk. Couldn't get it.
Yeah, it's not just the rhymes are great, but it's also the narration in between the songs and the way you set it up. And I feel like that song sets the stage for Book of Ryan, which, you know, a lot of times when I see you or get to speak to you, I mention to you how much I love that album because it's so personal. And, you know, songs like Boblo Boat, tell people what the Boblo Boat is and what Boblo Island is.
Boblo is like our great adventure, but it was like you had Cedar Point in Ohio, and then you had Boblo, where it was actually right across the water. So you would go down, you would get on a boat, and this was like the affordable amusement park for people that were in the hood in Detroit. And it was like the ride over to the island was an experience because they would have like parties and just things for the kids to do. And, you know, like just crazy shit just went on the boat. You know what I'm saying? Fights, all type of shit that you can think of.
Like Adventureland.
Yeah. And then like the actual island was a whole nother experience. And just coming up in the kind of household that I came up in, like any any opportunity to just get out of the element for a minute and go somewhere as a family where nobody's arguing with each other, my mom and my dad getting along, my brother not saying no stupid shit, you know what I'm saying? Like we all just having fun. Like it was like we just you just cherish those moments, you know what I mean? And I told myself when I was doing the Book of Ryan that I didn't want to do an album that sound like I was sad or I was like regretful of anything. Like I wanted to speak about the good times, but I also wanted to touch on the bad times because all of these times is what makes me who I am today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I feel like I know you because of that album and the song Amazing, man, that song is like a movie. But before I go any further, what do you have against Mork and Mindy?
Listen, I love Mork and Mindy. I love Mork and Mindy, but I never loved anything that my big brother loved too much.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because he was like my antagonist, you know, in the house. You know what I mean? So like if I love something too much, then he always got to find like the other show. You know what I mean? So it's like if he gets to the TV first and he's watching Mork and Mindy and I want to watch something else or
I felt the way when you hit that bar and it was like you said he'd be watching that nano shit. I'm like, that was my show back in the day.
I fuck with Mork and Mindy too. I fuck with it too.
I came up with a great system for me and my sisters, and I gave everybody certain days where they could have the TV. And because I came up with the system, I got to pick my days first. So I made sure I picked the days of my favorite shows. But on the song Cocaine, you say your father chose you over cocaine. And then Boblo Boat that you were just speaking of, you talk about you and your brother taking your first drinks and then growing up to be alcoholics. So you said you've been sober since 2012 after your DUI, and you said you got sober for your kids because they didn't really know you. Do you see the parallels? Does being sober make you a better artist?
I think so. I think being sober, when you have a problem, when you're an alcoholic, makes you a better everything. Mm-hmm. You know, just taking that leap of faith and believing in yourself enough to change everything, especially when everything that you did was just like contingent upon, how drunk you can get and how comfortable you can be because of alcohol to do so, like whether it's interviews or it's writing raps. It's like training a dog to go use it outside. You know what I'm saying? Like I literally trained myself to do everything under the influence. So it's like that whole process of just retraining myself, it was a long ordeal. So yeah, I think it made me a better everything. And I did it, I did it. I kind of like followed suit with what my dad did, like my dad is a great man because I know there were times where he could have done like illegal things or, he never did that. Like we come home from school, something may be turned off, maybe the lights are turned off or something like that. Dad, the light's not working. Don't worry about it. They'll be back on tomorrow or some shit like that. Right. Sit, light candles, you know what I'm saying? Or if like the heat is off or something like that, just pull open the oven door, right. Heat up the house and just until he gets it turned back on. And he always figured out a way to get it turned back on. Never did anything illegal that I can think of. Well, there was one Christmas where we got like a whole bunch of stuff. Looking back at it in retrospect, it's like he did something.
What did you do?
but like besides that, just thinking about it, it's like damn, because a lot of people would have cracked and just tried to, because he had a lot of fucked up niggas around. You know what I'm saying? Like he had a lot of people around. A couple of my uncles were pretty crazy. So the fact that he kind of held it together like that, just stay honest, worked a regular job, and all while having a drug dependency, and then figuring out a way to kick it. To be there for us, I feel like that's admirable because a lot of people wouldn't have had the strength to do that.
When you talk about being a better artist off of alcohol, it goes. I know I do stand-up comedy, and as of the last year, I've been doing my sets where I don't drink before I go on stage. I don't drink until after I go on stage. And it's just like a different feeling when you're on stage. And it's just like a different like, I did that. And you get to feel the nerves and really work through it when you're doing it sober.
Yeah, well, it started off with me just, I took my first drink with Dr. Dre when I was 21 years old. Wow. So I, he offered me a drink and it wasn't even like a peer pressure situation. I just didn't want to say no because it was Dr. Dre. you know, and the problem with looking at things like that, it's like people, you know, like not Dr. Dre, but other people who don't mean you well, you know, like they smell blood when they see that you move like that. And what they'll do is they'll put you in situations to where you'll have to drink, you have to take a drink, and then, you know, like to get things from you, you know what I mean? Like you take like 4 or 5, you get in this situation 4 or 5 times, you look up and no publishing, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, you gotta learn that you have to draw the line somewhere. And like discipline is that should be the caveat at all times. You know what I mean? Like never come in and just do as the Romans do. I did as the Romans did in many situations, you know what I'm saying? So I took the long way, you know what I mean? So I had to learn a lot of my things that I learned. I had to learn them trial and error the hard way.
Yeah, you just described the whole business. You just broke it down to a T.
Yeah.
First time I met you was with Kino and Courtney Brown, running around New York City, partying, all that. You have a very special relationship with Kino. He introduced you to Eminem, as you say in the song, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are changing and switching and firing managers. And what's your bond with Kino like, and how did it take shape, and why is it so strong? You
know, man, I only know how to be in a relationship one way. You know, that's why it's like, you know, like if I have like a connection with you and we're friends, you know, like nothing can change that but you, you know? So it's like a lot of people, they fire their managers because they see some sort of upside, some sort of imaginary upside. And sometimes there is an upside, but I just feel like you can't build something unless you're willing to kind of like stand in solidarity long enough. You know what I mean? I've seen people go from manager to manager to manager. I'm not real good at dealing with a whole lot of different personalities like that. I knew I wasn't really that good at rapping when I came into the game, and I knew he wasn't that good at managing when he came into the game. So, you know, like we both made our mistakes in real time. You know what I mean? And it's just that much sweeter. It's that much sweeter when you can just kind of build together, grow together. And you know, it's the same way with my wife, man. Like we've been together since high school, you know, I just don't really bail out of relationships unless you force my hand. But I'm a Cancer, so if you force my hand, I'm really, really good at never speaking to you again. You know what I mean? Okay. But if I love you, I'm stuck with you no matter what. No matter what.
Now, speaking of Dr. Dre, which you brought up earlier, there's a couple of different stories about your initial deal or supposed deal with Aftermath, and that you took the Tommy Boy deal over the Aftermath deal, but that you may have regretted taking the Tommy Boy deal. Is that a true story?
Yeah, but regret is not the right word to use.
Okay.
You know how you can look at a lot of things, a lot of decisions that you made, and just think to yourself, what if I had made a different decision? I wonder how that would have went. You know, but I mean, I feel like everything happened how it's supposed to happen. I'm certainly happy with where I'm at today. But yeah, it was just a situation where I was young. I didn't have guidance, you know, and I felt like I asked all the questions that needed to be asked. And all the questions led me to going where the most perceived money was at. So at that time, they were offering me $1 million, and Dre was offering me a $250,000 deal with unlimited Dre beats. So to me, that read as a $250,000 deal, you know. And this was I'm 19. We're working on the Chronic. I'm writing stuff for the Chronic, and I was feeling like that we were just rocking regardless. Dre was always like, "Yo, I'm rocking with you regardless." You know what I mean? So I went where I felt like the money was at. You know, we did like we had like a meeting to sign it. You know, we had Dre on the conference line on the phone. We had M. You know, M was involved, and I just felt like, you know, it was like the logical next step. But when it wasn't a part of the umbrella, you know, eventually that showed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
there's another story that I've heard where, you know, you spoke about you were writing on the Chronic, and you've done a lot of ghostwriting, and people know you as a ghostwriter. But there's a story that Kino did an interview where he said that you and M wrote for Dre and Dre didn't like it, and then Dre wanted you to not bring Kino around. Is there truth to that story?
The Kino part is true.
Okay.
Kino, I mean, Kwai, you know Kino. Kino is like,
I know Kino.
So imagine Kino back then. You know, we all kids. You know, we haven't even traveled before, bro. Like we haven't been on an airplane. You know what I'm saying? So like, Dr. Dre calls my mother's house. My dad answers the phone and he says, "Is Royce there?" And he says, "Who's calling?" He says, "Dr. Dre." My dad comes in the room and says, "Ryan, you got a Dr. Dre on the phone for you?" You know what I'm saying? So when we went out there, Kino was just excited, man. And he was just talking when he shouldn't have been talking, you know? Right. And the guy he was talking to, he was I was doing an interview it was a phone interview, and Kino was on the three-way. And somehow Kino ended up in the conversation talking. And what he was saying wasn't a part of the interview. It was just, you know, it was, I guess you could say off the record, but nobody never established that it was, this is going to be off the record. He was speaking actually candidly. And the guy who he was speaking to, I guess he felt like that was some kind of juicy shit to put in the article. So what he said was, I watched M sit Dre down like a pupil. And something along those lines. And Dre didn't like that. The way that he worded it, the context that he put it in, he just made it look way worse than what Kino was saying. Right. Kino was just trying to kind of like give Marshall props. Right. And, you know, it blew up in his face. Dre didn't like that. So Dre was pissed off. But he never told me, like, don't bring Kino around or anything like that. You know, like, we were already kind of like going our respective ways anyway. You know what I mean? So,
right. Now, obviously, you've been asked about your relationship with Eminem a million times. But it's a very, 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 very special relationship. Is there anything that you haven't said about Eminem? And do you agree when people say that you two mirror one another lyrically or stylistically?
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of us from Detroit do. Well, from my generation. I think everybody circa 95, 96 from Detroit, all of us had similarities. Elzai, Proof, all the D12 guys, Obi Trice. It was a certain kind of language that we spoke at the hip hop shop. We all admired each other. We all pulled from each other. We all kind of vibed off each other. So, you know, there's a guy named Fuzz Scooter back in the day who, him and M were very similar stylistically. You know what I mean? Like, and it's all Detroit shit. You know what I'm saying? So M kind of like introduced it to the world, but there are a lot of guys that kind of like shared a similar style. But M just had his way of doing it that was just unique to him.
I've heard you say, well, I didn't hear you say, I read an interview where you talked about how Eminem is very competitive in the studio and he feels like he has to out-rap everybody on the song, whereas you're more like, let's just do a song, right? And so the original Renegade was a song which you wanted, right? It was your song? So there's a conversation around who got the better verse, Jay-Z or Eminem. So I want to know who you think got the better verse on the song, Jay-Z, Eminem, or Royce da 5'9".
I'm not in that equation. I'm not in that equation because when me and Marshall did it, I just thought the song was okay.
Okay.
You know, like it was just sitting. It was just sitting because, I mean, after years in the game of learning more about songwriting, I learned that if we both attack the song the same way, this goes back to us being similar stylistically. We both attacked it the same way. We thought it was just a cool song. Take my vocals off and then Jay attacks it a different way. He actually doesn't attack it. He lays back in the pocket. And his content is almost like the juxtaposed version of what Marshall's talking about. It makes for a more complete song, and then you put it on a classic album and then it turns into a moment which blows what we did out of the water and turns it into a whole nother situation. And I think that one of the things that make the song special is that you can't really say who had the best verse. All you can do is go, you prefer this one over this one. So it's a preference thing. Right. You can't truly say one is better than the other.
I agree.
In my opinion.
I agree with that.
In 2003, Eminem had to apologize for some very early lyrics where he pretty much told people not to date black women. It's called Black Women Are Dumb, and he called black women bitches. How did you feel about that track, and did you say something to him? Is it important that people can grow past racist things that they've said in the past or have done?
Well, yeah, when that song surfaced, me and Marshall actually we weren't speaking. So there was like a long period of time where we didn't talk. Actually, like a decade. You know what I mean? So I had like this big beef like with D12, which is his crew, as you guys know. And when the song came out, I was surprised like everybody else. They tried to get me to like, as much as I felt like those guys were going against me, I couldn't bring myself to like honestly like play into it. You know what I mean? Like just me knowing Marshall, me knowing everything that he goes through in life, he writes about it. You know what I'm saying? He's been doing that ever since he's been a little kid. You know what I mean? So you come up in certain environments. I tell this story all the time. Like we moved to the city called Oak Park when I was 10 years old. And the first thing that happened when I got there, the first day, is I got called a nigger. And that was the first time that somebody used that word against me like a weapon. You know what I mean? And it was just like, if I had just stayed in Oak Park, never would have went out to fuck with Dr. Dre, never would have traveled, never would have met different people. Like I probably would have just saw the world through that lens, and it would have forced me to generalize all white people as this. You know what I'm saying? Like based off of me feeling like, okay, they don't like me, so I don't like them. So I'm just whatever. I don't feel like a black person can be a racist, but whatever the equivalent is to that. You know what I mean? So I can understand being in a certain environment, and you know, you with a girl, you a white dude, you with a girl, she do some shit to piss you off. Now you writing about it and you saying some shit that you feel can hurt her feelings. It's like the kid that called me a nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make it right. I understand it, but as a man, you got to make that right. You know what I'm saying? So just when they came to me about it, it was really nothing that I could say. It was just like, yo, that shit is unfortunate. If I was talking to him at the time, I probably would have had some things to say to him. You know what I'm saying? But I wasn't around. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to play into it. Plus, I didn't like the way that Benzino was doing what he was doing. You know what I mean? Like it took some of the sting out of it. You know what I mean? Like it was just coming from him and the intent and all of that. I just didn't want to get involved in that. You know what I mean? But I mean, just looking at it in retrospect, man, it's a terrible thing to happen. You know what I mean? But we grow from it.
Fast forward 30 years, and Eminem did apologize for that, and you know, he was a teenager, and you know, I don't have to deal with that because I'm not someone who grew up with him. I'm not somebody who has that relationship with him. So it's like, for me, you know, I think for you the way that you're talking about, I understand. It's like me talking about Kanye, you know, shit that Kanye says and does, where I'm like, yeah, I understand, but I can't fuck with that shit. You know what I'm saying? But I think that what's interesting about Eminem is that his participation in hip hop, for me, has always been very pure. And I feel like he does a good job of supporting the culture and participating in it. And when I talk about the culture, I'm talking about not just taking it for granted that this is a black art form started mostly by black and brown people. His resistance to Donald Trump on the big stage, I think is very important. I think it's a very, very good statement. I think when he said on White America, when he says, let's do the math, if I was black, I would have so have. I feel like he's referring to you and to D12 and to people that he was around. Do you feel like y'all would have sold more records if y'all were white artists like Eminem?
I think part of the reason why he sold so many records is because he was telling a story that we haven't heard before. You know, like all of us have similar kind of stories that we can, you know, that all correlate with each other. We all come from nothing. You know, we all can relate in that way. But when you come and you tell the trailer park story, that's like some shit we never heard before. And then it's like, he's some shit we never seen before. I'm just going off of the way that we reacted to him when we seen him at the open mic. Cause like when he first started like rapping and coming around and rapping, he was getting booed. But the first time that I seen him at the hip hop shop, he was battling, you know what I'm saying? And he reminded me of AZ, and he was nice. I had never seen no shit like this in my life. You know what I mean? Like, it was a big deal, but it wasn't like I was looking at it like, yo, he's gonna be, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't know all of that, but I just knew that this was something different. You know what I mean? So I think when you add Dre to the equation, you know, when he came across that My Name Is sample, bro, it all came together like magic. It was literally like he scrolled past the part, he played it, M said, "Hi, my name is." Dre said, what was that? What'd you just say? He said, "I said, hi, my name is." "Oh no, you got to say that." It literally was like that. And that to me is what really birthed him. You know what I mean? Because he was, before he did the Dre deal, he was going to sign with Doug Down. And I think if he would have signed to Doug Down, and I say this with all respect, I think he would have sold half. You know what I mean? Because that's what he is. He's an underground MC. Dre just figured out a way to bring more out of him. And I think that's what a great producer does.
Yeah, I understand. I think that's a great answer. Now, you defended Eminem when he was criticized by Lord Jamar. So that time you decided to step up and defend him. You highlighted the fact that Eminem has always maintained that he's a guest in the House of Hip Hop. So essentially, Eminem agrees with Jamar on that particular part of it. He honors that he paid his dues, but he understands why people might look at him like an interloper. Why was it important for you to stand up for Eminem in that situation and not speak on the other situation?
I mean, when people when they were asking me about it back then, they wanted me to feed into him being a racist, and I wasn't going to do that, even though me and him weren't speaking. I'm not with trying to, you know what I'm saying, like lie. Like, my experiences with Marshall, it's like, I've been around racist kids with racist parents. I feel like I know the difference, at least what I perceive is the difference. And I wasn't going to put him in that category, even with our relationship at the worst that it could possibly be. You know, so like the Lord Jamar thing, it started with one of the media outlets called Marshall the king of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't call himself the king of hip hop.
Right.
A magazine called him. I think it was Rolling Stone or some shit. And Lord Jamar was speaking on that, and somehow it turned into it was almost like Lord Jamar was like responding to M saying he was the king. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think Vlad was kind of like hyping it up a little bit, and then he was just talking about like he don't fuck with the shit that M talks about, and people don't listen to M in the hood, and just all of that type of shit. I think when I chimed in with Lord Jamar was on Twitter. When he said that M never did, what did he say? He said he never had any real contributions, no real contributions. And I was like, now that can be debunked. Like this can be fact based, and that's what made me chime in. And I was like, Lord Jamar, I want to challenge you, but I promise I'll be respectful. These were my exact words that I typed on Twitter, so I wasn't looking to like make him feel any less of a legend or anything like that. You know what I mean? So I said, yo, he put me in the business. He put D12 on, you know what I'm saying? Like, he made all of them rich. He put, he signed 50, you know what I mean? I can't remember everything else that I said, but all of these are legitimate contributions. These are fact-based contributions. Say what you want about the man. The man's done his part. He's done his part so far. You know what I mean? Like, whether he could have done more or less, that turns back into an opinion again.
Yeah, that's subjective.
You know what I mean? So me and him, we just disagreed on that. That was it. And then they kept talking about it on Vlad.
Well, you know how Vlad do.
Somewhere along the line, I get called like a house nigga or something.
Right.
Now we talking about something different. You know what I mean? So I think when we started to have words, it was after that. You know what I mean? But it's very, very difficult to be this close to somebody like Marshall who doesn't use his platform to do a whole lot of talking and like coming back to clarify everything. And you know what I mean? Like it just is what it is on that level. You know what I mean? So so it's very easy, I think, to just assume that he's a certain way. And it's just very difficult for me as his friend. You know, I know that he's a student of the game. You know what I mean? I know that there's admiration for Brand Nubian. You know, I know that he's not one of those guys that he's trying to peg him to be. And it's like, damn, man, I wish, like, it's really guys out there like this that you're talking about. Like, you should be talking to them. Like, they're right in your face. You know what I mean? This dude is like been a student of the game the whole time. Nothing but contributions. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I don't know, man. You know, that shit like that always rubbed me the wrong way. But I mean, man, listen, I'm going to stand up for Marshall because that's my friend. I'm always going to do that. I'm always going to stand up for him. I'm always going to stand up for him. You know what I mean? Just like I feel like he would stand up for me. But I didn't want to create a situation where I'm disrespecting Lord Jamar. But I'm not always the best with my words, Quad. Like sometimes, you know,
You're pretty good with the words, but I understand.
I say things the right way. I say things the wrong way sometimes. The good thing about me is I can always admit when I'm wrong, and I don't have a problem apologizing.
Do you ever get frustrated that you feel like that people look to you to answer for Eminem?
I don't think people look to me, but I do get frustrated when people say, "Why you always answering for him? Why can't he talk for himself?" There go Royce. Cooning for the white boy again. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only thing that kind of frustrates me sometimes. You know what I mean? Because I think integrity is a big thing to me. You know what I mean? And like, if you don't know me and you just assume, then you would think that there's some imaginary position that I'm trying to hold on to, being next to Marshall. What people don't realize is Marshall is my friend. Like, I've never put my name on anything that I didn't believe in, that wasn't about integrity, that I didn't feel was the truth. You know, if it was something I don't agree with, then I'm not going to ride with it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't work for Marshall. I've never been an employee of Marshall. You know what I mean? Like, he's my friend. You know what I mean? That's it. Like, the same way I ride for him, I ride for all of my friends. They used to say the same thing about Joe. He always sticking up for Joe. He always, you know what I'm saying? Like, same thing. Like, you know, like, people had a problem with me understanding Joe, you know, and that's just, me and Joe didn't like each other in the beginning. But once we got in a group with each other and I got to know him, now I love Joe. So now you can't say anything bad about Joe. If you say something bad about Joe, I'm going to have a problem with that. You know what I mean? Right. That's just how I am with all my friends. Yeah.
No doubt. Now you brought up Maurice Malone and the hip hop shop and the whole history of Detroit hip hop. What I think is interesting for me as an outsider is that first of all, off top, people undervalue the contributions that Detroit artists have made to hip hop and what Detroit hip hop represents to the music. Everybody from M and D12 to yourself to Slum Village, you know, like I'm a stan for Detroit music. You know what I'm saying? But as far as the Detroit hip hop scene, because y'all were so competitive, because y'all were so, for lack of a better word, lack of opportunity, right? Because the music business was on the coast. It seemed like it got volatile real quick. And there seemed to be a lot of tension and fights and beef. And you had a legendary, if I do say so myself, beef with Proof, rest in peace, where y'all almost really got into it and y'all ended up locked up in the same, like locked up together. Is that accurate? Can you tell me about that?
Well, the beef wasn't necessarily with Proof. Personally, Proof is actually the only person in the group that I had a relationship with outside of Marshall. Okay. Denine, Vaughn, and Swifty, I didn't know them. You know what I mean? So it was really, really, really easy for us to not like each other based off of things that, you know, outside forces are kind of like trying to stir up. And, you know, at that time, everybody just kind of wanted to find their place as men, you know, just out here in the streets of Detroit. out here in the game in hip hop. And you know, man, black men searching. You know what I mean? We're guarding something. We don't even know what we're guarding, but we just know we're not bagging down. And we don't understand the importance of unity and, you know, like doing things as a collective and thinking as a collective, you know, like it's every man for himself. You know what I mean? So what happened with me and Proof is Proof is kind of like always like a leader, like a boss, you know, and since it was them versus me, quite naturally, when we finally run into each other, it's me and Proof, you know what I mean? So we just bumped into each other. I think it was either the day after my birthday, it was my birthday, and I was downtown, and Proof came around the corner with a bunch of people, and he was just like, "What's up?" You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, "What's up?" You know what I mean? So it was kind of like a standoff, you know. God rest his soul. I don't want to like say anything that's like I shouldn't be saying, you know what I'm saying?
Of course.
One thing led to another. Both of us pull out guns and we end up locked up together. And just us being able to speak finally, you know, at one point in time, me and Proof took our sons to Chuck E. Cheese together. You know what I mean? Like we had our own relationship outside of Marshall. We actually were cool with each other first before Marshall. I was cool with Proof before I was cool with Marshall.
Okay.
So, you know, we just had a chance to talk, man. And the valuable lesson that I learned from that is that through communication, you know, anything is possible. You know, most beef aren't based in anything. You know what I mean? Like most beefs escalate due to lack of communication. And that's kind of like what happened there. You know what I mean? So once we were able to talk and just kind of like put things in perspective, we squashed it pretty quick, you know, but we talking about a beef that lasted years.
Right.
After getting out of jail for a DUI, you dropped the first bar exam mixtape. There's been three now. How important was that project to motive therapy and healing?
Yeah, bar exam was like it was just like my getaway. You know, when I got out of jail, I went to jail for drinking and driving. And when that happened, it was like a lot of people going, he ain't coming back from that. He ain't coming back from that shit. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, that was like the fuel. I needed to hear that. You know what I mean? I needed to hear that. And it was my reason to focus and just go and prove that I belong. You know what I mean? And that was the bar exam mixtapes is like the installment that I started doing that separated me from just the conversation of Eminem, D12, you know what I mean? Beefing, you know what I'm saying? All of these negative things. It's just me and my raps. And right. it was like my way of letting you know, of showing you that you're supposed to just take me serious, just me and my raps, and stop associating me with all of these transgressions that I'm pulling along with me as I try to figure out how to not have this dark cloud hanging over my head. You know what I mean? Like I'm really trying. I'm trying to understand why I'm not getting support from my city. Like I can't figure out for the life of me what's going on until one day it dawned on me, hey, why don't you just start supporting people from your city? Why don't you show love? You know? And then I started doing that and everything just changed. I started to get love. I started to show love. I started to get love. I started to show support. I started to get support.
Ain't it funny how that worked?
Yeah, then I realized, hey, people wasn't really against me after all. Especially people that I get cool with that used to not like me. They like so happy that I'm this cool. It's like, damn, man, I thought you was a dickhead. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like, man, it's so much to be said about just the growing process. You know, and I reached a point in life, man, where I just looked at everything in retrospect and was like, fuck. It never was about that. It never was about that. It never was about that. Fuck. I thought it was about this shit the whole time. I thought it was about being tough the whole time. I thought it was about it's not about none of that shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's humbling. It's humbling.
Word up. You have a great relationship with DJ Premier. When DJ Premier played Boom on the Versus, I was in my house jumping up and down like, whoa, that's my shit. But that's like an underground hit. It's like a hit that's not a hit. It's like, it wasn't a big radio hit, but it's like, especially overseas, that record Boom is just crazy. But then Fab was on. He was like, "What's this?" He said something like, "This is some new Royce." I was like, "How Fab is on the album with Royce and don't know Boom?" You know what I'm saying?
He know Boom. He know Boom. Because when I first met Fab, we were in Miami. We were in Miami, and he was like, "Yo," he came up to me, and I was about to go up to him because that's when he had "I Can't Deny It, I'm a fucking rider," and I was gonna tell him how nice I thought he was, and he came up to me and was like, "Yo, you a nice nigga, son. You a nice nigga, son." And he started quoting lines from Boom.
Okay.
And I was like, "Yo,"
he just didn't recognize it on that verses.
He just didn't recognize it at that moment. You know what I mean? Probably because Premier played it against incarcerated Scarfaces. Yes, just like you said, you were at the crib jumping up and down. I was in my studio jumping up and down, like, no, don't feed me to the wolves.
Now, tell me about how you developed your relationship with Premier, and I want to know, is Guru's Ashes really in the studio like you said? Yes, they were. Okay, they were, and I mean, I went to New York so we can rehearse for the Prime tour. Yeah, we both on that album too, so I'm glad to be on that album with you.
Of course, he played me your verse. He played me your verse and got me hyped up because I didn't know anything about the project. He was keeping it a secret. Right. So and I remember I was writing and I was like, "What's this right here?" He was like, "This is Guru's Ashes." I was like, "What? Just sitting on a track board like that?" Oh, that's a bar. That's a bar right there. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it was that simple. As far as me and his relationship, it was something that got just nurtured over the years. You know what I mean? Like he was one of the first people that I met when I got into the game. You know, D&D Studios, yo, man, I wrote letters to D&D Studios. You know what I mean? Like I got the address off the Bahamadia single, the cassette tape. And you know, like that whole just scene was just legendary to me. So when I got the Tommy Boy deal, the first thing that I said was I want to work with DJ Premier. And you know, as you know, Kwa, like DJ Premier don't just be like you can't just work with Premier. He has to agree that he'll work with you. You know what I mean? So they sent him my Tony Touch 50 MCs freestyle, and he listened to it and was like, "All right, I fuck with him. All right, I'll do something with him." You know, and we got together. Couple studio sessions, worked on a song called My Friend the first time, and then the second studio session we worked on Boom. Legendary studio sessions. He kept me waiting probably 4 hours until he got there, got to the studio with this amazing story about how he saved these children from like a car crash.
That sounds like Brienne.
Some fucking burning building, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like I was just like, bro, this guy is crazy, you know what I mean? And the second time, we had spoke on the phone a couple of times. We got a little bit cooler with each other, and I walked in, and he was making the Boom beat, and I was like, "What's this?" And he was like, "I'm about to get on your beat in a minute. I'm about to make it in a minute." I was like, "Well, who are you making this for?" He was like, "I'm making this for Capone and Noriega." And you know, I looked around like, "Shit, I don't see Nori nowhere.
I don't see Capone
nowhere." So I talked him out of that one. You know what I mean? So he ended up making Capone and Noriega something different and gave me that one. And that's how that one happened. And you know, and then after that we stayed in touch. There's something about me he liked, man. I don't know. We stayed in
and just likable.
We stayed in touch, and then, you know, we just one thing led to another. After we looked up and had a 15-year relationship, it just kind of was what it was. You know, it's one of those relationships that just stuck.
Yeah, what do you think made him want to only sample Adrian Young for the Prime project?
It was actually an idea that my man Mike Haran had.
Shout out to Mike Haran.
Yeah. Mike had that idea for Slaughterhouse, and then, you know, the guys, everybody wasn't like super into the idea. I thought the idea was really cool, and I presented it to Premier and was like, "What do you think about doing something like this?" We spoke about doing a joint project together, but I knew it was gonna have to be at a time where he felt like I actually earned enough stripes to, you know, actually do some shit like that with me. Right. You know, so I didn't know if he looked at me like that, but I figured it was worth a shot. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I approached him with it to see how he felt about it, and he was surprisingly responsive. You know what I mean? He I didn't get him the first conversation, but I was able to talk him into it. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, look, man, this would be like a great way to just, you know what I mean? Like just something new to do. You know what I mean? It was when I just got sober, you know what I mean? Like I was looking for things. I was searching for something to do. And then, you know, one thing led to another. He met with Adrian. He loved what Adrian did.
Adrian's fantastic, man. I still listen to that Black Dynamite soundtrack just on the humbug, like just put it on, just to have it on.
Yeah, he was like he listened to what Tim did when he flipped it with the Adrian Young shit for Hove. And Preem was just like, yo, I think I can kill it more than anybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And once he get in that bag, that's it.
Right.
That's it. It's over. You know what I mean? The rest is history.
Okay.
Let's talk Slaughterhouse drama. I know it's probably inevitable to happen since you guys had so many people in the mix, but Slaughterhouse was started with a beef between you and Joe Budden over a battle that never really happened in New York. Can you share that story with us, please?
Oh, it happened. Joe just wasn't there. But so what it was supposed to be, my brother Chuck from All Hip Hop reached out and said he wanted me to be a part of a showcase where myself, Fonte, Mr. Fab from the Bay, Joe Budden, and it's one more person I think I'm missing. Pardon me if I'm whoever that is that I'm missing, but we were supposed to go out to SOBs and we're gonna rap verses and we're gonna have judges judge verses. You know what I mean? Never once did he use the word battle. You know what I mean? So I get there and I'm noticing something strange because Fonte dropped out. He's not there. So it's like now it's only me and Mr. Fab. Joe is not there.
You and me, Mr. Fab, got a great record together, by the way, for the people watching.
Yeah. Shout out to Mr. Fab. That's my dog. Yeah. So we were in the back. I'm in the back and Remy is in the back and she's like, this is me. I'm meeting her for the first time. I'm a big fan of Remy. So I'm like, hey, Remy, how you doing? Say, what's up? She like, why you battling? And I was like, nah, it's not going to be a battle. You know, we just go, you know what I'm saying? She was like, you going to win? And I was like, nah, you know, it's not going to be a battle. Then Craig G come up to me like, yo, it's a battle. So just make sure that you're ready. Just make sure you're ready. I'm like, nah, there ain't going to be no battle. There ain't going to be no battle. You know, so I'm like, damn. So I'm getting kind of scared because it's like, I'm not a freestyler. You know what I'm saying? Like I just got my raps that I got from some songs that I was working on at the time. You know, so they're like, Joe Budden is on his way. Joe told these people that his brother got shot and he's on his way. He had to tend to his brother and he's on his way, knowing he wasn't coming.
Wow.
You know, so the whole crowd is waiting on Joe to show up to make a magical appearance. Joe never shows up, so now it's just me and Mr. Fab. Mr. Fab is under the impression that he's battling, so he's ready to battle.
And he's a
freestyler.
He's a freestyle battle monster.
Yeah, so I'm like, man, and I ain't know about Mr. Fab at that time, so I was like, I just told him, I was just like, yo, man, just don't aim none of your raps at me. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, all right, cool. All right. He probably was thinking to himself, I don't have to aim them at you.
Right.
I'm about to tear your ass up. You know what I'm saying? So you know, like it's like, all right, go. I rap my rap. And you could tell that the crowd is expecting a battle because I'm rapping and they looking at me like,
get to it, nigga.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then, you know, Mr. Fab, he started freestyling and they went crazy and then that was it. You know what I mean? So I lose the battle. Even though I wasn't prepared.
The battle you was never in.
I lose the battle. And then Joe, and I feel like he was one of the people who set me up for failure. He decides to speak on it. So somebody sends me a clip of him speaking about the battle and how I look like shit. I look like shit in the battle. He was talking to DJ Envy in the interview. I look like shit in the battle, and DJ Envy was like, that was brutal. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I'm gonna beat both these niggas' asses. And then Joe put out a freestyle where it was like, he dissed me in the freestyle.
Damn.
About how I fell off. So I'm like, man, okay. So like, I started working on bar exam 2. And damn near the whole bar exam 2 is about Joe. The whole bar exam 2. I was just waiting, you know what I'm saying, for him to come back and say something. But I think he felt like, yo, I dissed him for no reason. I kind of had that coming. He prepared some raps in return. Some of his people advised him not to. I was writing more raps about him. My people was advising me not to. And then I'm at the hospital. My wife is going into labor with my first daughter. And I get a call from Chuck Creekmer saying Joe wants to talk to me. So I'm thinking he wants to get on the phone so we can talk about, you know, all the shots that I've been taking at him. And we get on the phone. He's like, yo, Royce, what's up, man? Like, I want to get you on this joint. What? He's like, yeah, I want to get you on this joint. So this is like, I'm thinking to myself, like, this guy is fucking crazy. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you know what? All right. I'll do it.
Beef squash.
So I left the hospital that night, went and laid the verse and sent it to him against my better judgment. Cause I started to just be like, motherfucker, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I didn't do that. I went against my better judgment. I laid the verse, and that verse was on the song Slaughterhouse that started the group Slaughterhouse.
Wow.
So, you know, decisions.
That's a movie, man.
That's a movie.
Yeah, that's a whole movie. Now, one of my favorite things I've heard recently, or I didn't hear it, I read it, is when you was beefing with Yellow Wolf and you wrote to Dude and you said, you think it's one way, but it's the other way. Where you get that phrase from? I never heard that phrase. I liked it.
You know where I got it from. I got it from Marlo on The Wire.
Is that where it's from? That's probably why I liked it. It was something familiar about it.
He said that to the security guard on his way out when he stole the sucker from the little bodega store.
Okay.
And my man was like, man, you don't see me standing here? Like, I seen you take it.
Right.
And he looked at him, he put the sucker in his mouth, and he looked him up and down. He said, I know who you are. Look, I don't want no problems. He was like, oh yeah? It's like, you think it's one way. You want it to be one way.
Right.
You want it to be one way. And then Chris pulled up. He said, but it's the other way. And then he got in the car.
That one. Yeah, I like that one. Also on the song, so on the Allegory, which is a project just came out this year. Great project, by the way.
Thank you.
The song Overcomer, West Side Gun, very good song. But you also talk about the Yellow Wolf situation on that. You say men lie, women lie, so do numbers. Can you break that bar down?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You know what I mean? Like, I think there was a point in time where I think Hov was the first person who I heard say men lie, numbers lie, men lie, women lie, numbers don't.
Right.
And I think when everything turned super digital, the numbers started to look funny. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like all of these, when you talk about algorithms and shit like that, all of these things can be manipulated, you know? So anywhere where there's large sums of money being generated, you know, there's an algorithm and, you know, there's smoke to chase, there's corruption, you know what I mean? So a lot of times you can't go off the numbers. I believe that you got the numbers and then you have energy. I believe the energy never lies. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Nipsey Hussle, you know, there was a certain amount of numbers that represented Nipsey Hussle when he was alive. But when Nipsey Hussle died, that energy was not a reflection of any of those numbers. It was something totally different. And it was something that you couldn't turn down. You couldn't turn it up. You couldn't manipulate it. It just existed. You know what I'm saying? It was the energy. You can't create it. You can't do any of that. You know what I mean? Like, you can't create that in the boardroom. The energy is just the energy, you know? And that's something that I think the artists who focus on that are the artists who are able to thrive during times like this. You know? Because right now, you can't hide behind marketing dollars right now. So we're getting a vivid picture of what everybody has to offer to the culture. You know, so a lot of people, you look at them and be like, wow, they're quiet. They just might not have shit to say, or they may not have shit to offer. You know what I mean? So everybody can't pull off the same magic trick when the narrative is not being controlled by, you know, the powers that be, you know, and I think that's telling.
Now, I've also read that the album, The Allegory, was named after a book, The Allegory of the Cave by Plato. Your album titles are very powerful. very important. What about that book inspired you to make this album?
I just felt like it spoke about perspective. You know what I mean? Like just the thought of like having people in the cave and just, people been in the cave like for a certain amount of years, and then you just take them out the cave, and then the first time you look at the sun, you have to squint your eyes. It'll hurt your eyes. The first time you see a big body of water, you won't have the verbiage to describe even what you're seeing. You can't go back into the cave and say, I seen a big body of water. You know what I mean? And somebody can tell you like, this is reality. This is reality that you're looking at. And it doesn't become reality to you until you're willing to accept it as your reality, because you may just opt to go back in the cave because at that moment, that may be an easier option for you. And I just thought that was telling with the way that we take in information and we receive information. You have going to a public school in America, you have the info that you're given, and then you have the truths that you can research and find and make that determination yourself and rather what you want to believe. If you choose to believe that Christopher Columbus founded America, if that's what makes you at peace, cool.
Right.
What I mean? And I just feel like right now, with the pandemic and, with somebody like Trump being in office, I feel like we are living in the allegory of the cave. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it almost made me a prophet a little bit.
Okay. Okay. Now you produced this whole album, which means that it's fully your vision.
Yeah.
You did a lot of sampling off of YouTube, not really vinyl, and you talked about how you were amazed at just what's available on YouTube. Walk us through your production process. What does that look like for someone who wants to start making beats, for someone who's like a Royce the 5'9" is like, hey, I want to do that too?
Whew, that's a tough one because I did the whole project learning how to make beats. So DJ Premier actually showed me, he sat on FaceTime with me for 2 hours and walked me through how to use an MPC.
Wow.
So
wow, that's like a master class.
Yeah, he walked me through it. So I was using the MPC for a while, and Mr. Porter is in my B room. So when I came back from out of town, Mr.
Shout
Porter
out to Denon.
Yeah, he kind of like heard some shit that I was working on. So he showed me Logic. When he showed me Logic, I already knew Pro Tools, and it was like the same language. I kind of fell in love with that process, the process of using Logic. So I'm a firm believer in practice makes anything close to perfect. You know what I mean? I feel like if you can dedicate yourself enough to just practice and you don't mind, you know what I mean? Like I drag myself through every type of I drag myself through the gauntlet as a writer. You know what I mean?
Right.
As a producer, I didn't mind making whack loop after whack loop after whack this after whack that. It was just like, and once I came up with the first thing that even gave me like a little bit of a thought to rap to, I just rapped to it. You know what I mean? One thing led to another. I had another beat maybe that I wanted to rap to. I was literally making like 20 beats each time to come up with one, because this is my first time, making beats. And as I kept doing them, they started to get tighter. They started to get better and better. I'm a lot better now than I was when I was doing the album. You know what I mean? But the process just kind of came together like that. Just a whole lot of practice.
I read that you wanted the allegory to sound like Quentin Tarantino directed it. Now, Quentin Tarantino is one of my favorite directors. I think that's a good metaphor because what Quentin Tarantino does that I feel like is his greatest strength is he doesn't play by the rules at all, and he utilizes all his influences. So if you take a movie like Kill Bill, it's got anime in it. It's got Japanese samurai shit in it. It's got hip hop in it. It's got old spaghetti Western music in it. Like sometimes it feels like a 70s blaxploitation flick. Sometimes it feels like a horror movie. Everything that he was influenced by, he's throwing it in there. There's a real hip hop way to create. And I feel like the allegory is you saying, I'm influenced by this. Let me throw this in here. I'm influenced by that. Let me throw that in there. Like there's no rules to this shit. Do you feel like you achieved what you wanted to achieve on the level of the Quentin Tarantino metaphor with this album?
I think so. I mean, it's not to say that it was as good as something Quentin Tarantino did, but I think what Quentin Tarantino achieves every time he makes a movie, it's like you watch the movie and you feel and you hear his signature in there. Like he's speaking to you. You know what I mean? Like you're not just watching a movie. And you know, like in hip hop, like one of my pet peeves right now, just in the business, is just, I call them anecdotal facts, man. Anecdotal facts. Like people just regurgitate things. They just regurgitate things and they create these rules that you got to stick to. Yo, you know, streaming is going on right now. So your songs can't be too long. You gotta, you know, you can't have this. You gotta make a song. You gotta speak to women when you gotta make a song about women. So women will listen and all, you know what I'm saying? Like all of these fucking rules that really haven't been proven that they're the truth. It's just people just repeat them because it's the industry thing to do. You know, so, and you know, like Kino is like one of the notorious motherfuckers who does that. So when I'm talking to Kino and everything that he tries to like force on me, it's like, no, now that you said that, I'm gonna make the song even longer now. I'm gonna make the verse even longer. And I'm gonna do everything that people say I can't do just to show you what fucking difference does it make. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? So I kind of wanted it to just, my sick, anti-everything personality, I kind of wanted to shine through a little bit, even at the risk of, I'm just real big on taking creative, like, chances. You know what I mean? Like, I'm an airport late guy. You know what I mean? Like, airport early people, that's like, those are like managers. You know what I mean? Like, you speak to a manager has to get to the airport early, and they're always going to tell you, I like to get there early so I can do some work on my laptop. It never fails. So like with me, I like the boarding room door to be open when I come up to the gate. I don't like sitting in the airport. You know, I like to go right on the airport and then it take off and then I can go to sleep. That's just me. I'm an artist. I like living on the edge. I need shit to be edgy. You know what I mean? So I don't like safe. Safe is corny. I don't like safe. I don't like just staying in a safe place. You know, if I just went, you know, like my style is, you know, lyrical miracle, you know what I'm saying? Like that's a safe place for me. I need to be able to push myself outside of that. I don't like making a song specifically for radio. That's a safe place. I don't like that. You know what I mean? Like I just like to, you know, do exactly every album to be a reflection of exactly who I am at the time, and for it not to just speak for a side of me like how my music used to do. You know what I mean? Like I don't like living a double life. I like being the same guy at the crib as I am on the records. You know what I'm saying? Like and to, you know, live in the center of my truth. You know what I mean?
There's a freedom in that.
Yeah, it's liberating.
Yeah. Griselda's all over that album. Can you explain your relationship and how the lyrical respect flows there? Yeah,
I mean, when I first heard them, actually, my brother Alchemist played them. He played Conway and Gun for me on a flight we were on, going to do one of Marshall shows. And I thought they were incredible. You know, so I was working on a mixtape called Trust the Shooter. And I was talking to my boy Mike Aron again. And Mike Aron is always around. Yep. So he knew them. So I was like, yo, I reached out to them through him. I put them on a song called The Banjo with me, Styles P, and them. So that was like a lot of people's first time hearing them because they were like really, really niche back then. Yeah. I mean, they were coming regardless. They were coming. You know what I mean? Like sooner or later, they were gonna break. They were gonna cut through. So I worked with them way back then. I was proud to say that. You know what I'm saying? Like I was proud that I worked with them way back then. And I invited them out to my release joint at SOBs, and they drove all the way from Buffalo to come do the show with me, you know, and we developed a relationship after that. When they ended up signing with Shady, which had nothing to do with me, it was a totally separate thing. They ended up at Heaven Studios, you know, like, and every time they come in town, you know what I mean? Like they come to my studio, you know, it'd be niggas laid out on couches and luggage and shit sprawled all everywhere. My home is their home, and we've been family ever since. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's deeper than music with them.
That's love. I can tell that with the music that you make with them. It feels like real family. In the song with you got with Benny the Butcher, you say, I'm gonna quote you, you say, focus on the art, not the wave. Everybody talking about they own their master, but if the music don't age well, it don't matter. It's like you own 100% of nothing. Know your value. Can you expand on this idea? Is the fact that you're always putting quality over everything the secret to all your success?
You know what? I find that when I don't chase things and I just allow them to happen, I don't force things. That's when it works out the best for me. I don't think that there's like a thing that I have that I do that guarantees me any success. I just feel like it's a roll of the dice, and it's just art at the end of the day. I feel like being able to put perspective to things. Like if you can't put perspective to things, then they just become anecdotal facts. Like if I tell you save your money, like that seems like great advice, from somebody that's 75 years old. You know what I mean? You're basically just telling me to take my money and put it somewhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I could take it and put it anywhere you want me to put it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Without perspective, I'm gonna probably need that money at some point. You know what I mean? So the thing is, how about adding a little bit to it? How about teaching them financial literacy? You know what I mean? So instead of everybody just being like, yo, I own my masters just for a wave, how about putting the effort into the art? So not only can you own your masters, but they'll actually be worth something, because the key is to take the platform that you have, that you've been afforded, understanding exactly what it is that you are, and then building something that can serve you for long periods of time. That's what you're here to do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it takes a long time to realize that we're not here to become fucking famous. You know what I mean?
Right,
And
that's right.
For some people, like there's no coming back from that. They realize that too late, and then it's like boom, because it's set up to chew you up and spit you out. It's not set up for your success. It's set up for you to fail. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a fucking laundry list of things for you to learn. That whoever you're signing to, they know all of these things, but they're not going to show you any of them. You know what I mean? Because there's more profit in your ignorance, than it is for you to know. And no label is here to build your brand. That's not their job. Their job is just to make money. So it's the second you realize that, and you're making decisions for you, as opposed to making some record that's going to fit some, like it's going to fit some playlist or some radio agenda or something like that. Because we come into the game, we can pretty much do whatever. Kwai, you can write any kind of record. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
The key is to know what's the record for you. They can't tell you that. Only you can tell them that.
That's
you
right.
Know what I mean?
That's right. And the only thing that does not depreciate is that good art. When we talk about at times of antiquity to now, the only things that everything else depreciate, the money, the fame, you can't take none of it with you, but the art, you can pass that down from generation to generation.
Can you talk to us about your new position on the board of Eminem's charity, the Marshall Mathers Foundation?
I'm basically I'm coming to the table. My initial role is just to be one of the people who helps with the disseminating of the funds. So my goal coming in is just to make sure, to kind of help out to make sure that the funds go to the right places and we actually see results, as opposed to just being, one of those situations where we're just throwing a whole bunch of money at a whole bunch of different things. So my goal, starting with Detroit, and we're going to obviously expand to other cities, is just to launch initiatives as opposed to just donating. Launch initiatives that can be long-standing, that can outlast, in case this is just another wave. Because I'm prepared to protest for the rest of my life. I'm prepared to, if that's what it's going to be. But at the end of the day, I also see this as an opportunity to kind of put in place and in position some of the things that we're lacking. Like a lot of people use the term white privilege. Well, what are some of the things that what are some of the amenities that white people have that we don't have? And whatever those are, instead of waiting on white people to do these things for us, let's do them ourselves, because we have guys such as myself, such as Mr. Kweli, you know what I mean? Like, we have guys that made it out of the element, who are the generators of predatory capital, who it's our job to turn around and then stimulate that same area that we came from and put some of those systems in place and launch the initiatives that are going to turn things around. It's up to us to do it. You know what I mean? And to me, it's part of success. It's just a part of success.
Yeah, man. I like that. Do for self. Knowledge of self, do for self. Each one teach one. Ladies and gentlemen, Royce the 5'9" has joined the People's Party. And we love you and we appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for coming on our show.
Thank you, my brother. I love y'all too, man. I love the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.